Hello and welcome to Tibet, USA with Mark and Phuntsok. Good morning, Phuntsok. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. Welcome to Tibet, USA podcast. This is our sixth episode.
Sixth episode.
Ooh.
We're doing it.
And today is November.
Skip ahead, November 9th?
Somewhere there.
2024.
Wow.
Pretty great.
Yeah, doing good. And pleasure to have you here.
Likewise. I think we decided last week to take a week off recording. I was out of town. Mm-hmm. But we want to pick up where we left off, which is a discussion on karma.
Correct.
And we are calling today's podcast Karma Part 2.
Okay.
It's a very original title. This is nothing but groundbreaking originality with this show. Yeah, Karma Part 1 was our first very original title.
Wow.
And now it's a response to that, Karma Part 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I tried and I tried to explain what I know about karma. I said karma is, action. Karma is your deeds. Karma is your memory. In different ways to explain what karma is. Even though in the West, I feel the word karma is a little bit over-exaggerated. Mm-hmm. Oversimplified, but to me, my experiential knowledge or understanding of karma, experience of karma is really real. So every day. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I love it. I just have a question. I'm ready for you.
I know you said questions are
I have more questions that I think you're going to be ready to answer.
There's nothing wrong with the question, I said. The problem is in the answer. So,
yeah.
So when we said karma, and in the last time when I came here, I came here first, and I opened the door, and I meditated a little bit here in this Mounts View Library, this room that we booked.
Yeah.
And I just said, wow, calm presence here. I've tried to feel the vibration in this small room here where we're doing this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And then I just said, okay, we'll be here for a certain time, and then we'll record this podcast. We'll be making a lot of sounds. Mm-hmm. In other words, we're talking, right? And then we will leave this mountains. We will go to where we need to go, and then we'll come back next week. I mean, the space here in this Mount View Library will stay, but we will go. But we will create a lot of sound here today. We'll be influencing the vibration here, creating a lot of sound here, and more so people who are listening to this sound in this podcast as our podcast, making a meaning out of this sound that we are using, English as a language, interpreting on that, have an opinion on what did Mark say, what did Phuntsok say, why did he say that? So sound, also speech, is another imprint. See how it is affecting. So what kind of vibration we're going to leave behind when we leave this library?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of vibration we wanted to bring in today to this library when we come in? What kind of vibration we're going to bring in this 2025? Sound, speech. I'm trying to come back to. I'm not trying to have a word salad here. So it's just the conditioning of the mind that you will understand when I try to speak in English, and then that sound has impact. It's all conditioning, right? So here we are in this Mounts View Library today doing this podcast, and when we leave from here, we want to leave this room with a little better vibration than it is. And wherever we go, even the intent of this podcast, when they hear it, I want this podcast, whatever conversation we have, made this conversation finds it very liberating, relaxing. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to share. Go ahead. You're holding a lot of questions.
No, it's okay.
I keep rambling.
I didn't realize you were going to launch into the Tibet USA Manifesto, which is great, because I don't think we've shared with our listener what the point of all this is, and I think you just eloquently did. Also, maybe in a microcosmic way, what you were saying is exactly the same thing that I know I have, and I'm guessing you do, for what vibration or imprint or memory or legacy you'd like to leave when you leave this level, this planet, this place, right? What are we doing here? What is our goal here on Earth? And that's a whole other conversation possibly, but I like that, looking ahead to 2025. What kind of message, what kind of imprint do we want?
What kind of karma?
Yeah.
That's where I was going to get to, is speech has its own, imprint, and people who are listening to this conversation, we are influencing the fabric of their software by our speech. And while we are producing this sound, this conversation we're talking, right? Through this, we're also upgrading or downgrading the software we have, which I was going to go back to say that that's the imprint you left behind, that's the karma you have left behind. And the imprint or the vibration that you send it out is going to be part of your vibration. You have to deal with the cards that, this is your software. It became part of you. So so far, is it not confusing?
A little bit, but that's okay.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. The karma part that I was trying to get back to, through the speech, through the physical action, through the intent, it's all karma. So when we woke up this morning and up to this time, we have a lot of karmas added through intention, through speech, through physical action. So I was trying, in the last podcast, I was trying to bring one unit of that experience. You were saying something like a snapshot or something. So I was trying to handle that with the one snapshot, one unit of experience, by going an example of what did you have for your dinner or something like that, right?
Yep.
So
the memory part.
Yeah, memory part, when I was using memory as a karma, because how conditioned we are. I don't want to lose you into this. You go ahead. You have.
So let me backtrack one step. You've said three things that I want to make notes of. One is that speech and our words and language can be an act of building karma or leaving like a karmic kind of fingerprint on our past and our future, and that really connects with this Christian idea of a creation, the Christian creation story. So I'll get back to that. It's maybe a different podcast.
Wow.
But there's a very direct link to words being used by the Creator to create the universe. Literally, spoken words creating things in the world. So we'll get back to that.
Wow.
But you said there's this oversimplification of karma in the West. I completely agree, and here's how I grew up thinking about karma. And everybody kind of in my soup, in my neighborhood, in my community, this is kind of how we think about karma. If you do something bad, something bad is going to happen to you. If you do something good, something good is going to happen to you. That is the basic idea, and I think it probably doesn't get much further than that. If anyone in the West, in America, or what have you, England, parts of Europe, the West, think about karma. I'm thinking that's how we think about it. So that's like my starting point. Do you want to spend some time picking that apart, or do you just want to chew on that? And
That's fine. That's fine. Not that I'm the authorized dealer to talk about karma.
dealer,
Sounded
karma dealer,
it's a karma
not
dealer.
a car dealer, but a karma dealer.
You can call.
You're a karma salesman.
You can call Credit Karma. They know me. So
Phuntsok, the
All
credit, the karma dealer.
So cause and effect, and going deep in meditation to see how mind is working. Cause and effect. So I touched on that in the last podcast. Cause and effect. So if you go still deeper into that, cause may be there, but condition has to be there as well. And causes and conditions should go together. Together. I sound like I've done a PhD on karma, but bear with me here. So
You're good.
This is purely my experiential, and I think I got this.
I've been bearing with you for 5 episodes so far, so nothing's going to change. You're good.
That's one of the virtues of Tibetan. But in Buddhism, is the patience is a virtue, so it's good.
You
so
got
I'm
it.
doing something good here. So
We're
thank
super
you.
virtuous here at Tibet USA. We're dripping with virtue.
So it's in the West, people. I have met a lot of friends who will say, "Well, why bad things happen to good people? Why is it doesn't make sense?" Okay, and then some very when I did a master's in psychology back in the days, I was studying mostly Western contemporary psychology, right? Mostly abnormal psychology. That's what the psychology is all about, is abnormal psychology. They're not studying the psychology of a Buddha, enlightened being's mind, right? So anyway, let me go back to what I was trying to say, is that when we say, what would you say, that when you do something bad things going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And somebody will say, oh, okay, well, I don't remember what bad thing I did. Now I have to pay for this, and it's a karma. They say it's not fair, to fix what wrong I did. If I can't remember in my memory. You're talking about memory, and I don't remember what wrong did I do. So how do I fix it when I don't remember what wrong did I do, right? And those kind of logical discourse in Buddhism, Buddhist monks do. This dialectical discourse. If you go to India or you go to Nepal, mostly in India, they do this. They will clap their hand like this, and they will, from a distance, you will find like they're really, aggressively arguing, fighting, right? But they're not. They're debating. So, and that's they have it every day. They will do this dialectical discourse. They will be competing with logics, and they will be like, why it's not fair, right? How do I fix it when I don't remember? What's the point? It's not fair. Then somebody will come up with, so for Western mind, if I go on what the argument, what the discourse, or dialectical discourse they have, they won't connect to or relate to what they're saying. But it's like you go online on a online shopping spree. You did a lot of shopping online. You may be, you so drunk you just empty out your bank account, right? In the morning you just woke up like, my goodness.
I've been there.
Oh my goodness, what happened? My bank account is empty now, right? But you don't remember what happened because you were pretty dead drunk. Doesn't mean the bank account is going to steal. The bank account is going to be empty anyways, because you don't remember doesn't mean the bank account is. So you see what I'm saying? The karma, it's not a perfect example. So whether you remember or not remember is another question, but the calculation comes and you have to pay. It is even may not be in this life, but the karma thing that it's that thing will go to the next life.
So that brings up another really fundamental question that I think is confusing to me, and I think might really help explain karma, is this idea of reincarnation. We haven't really touched on that. We've talked about it a few times, and I feel like that's another series for us. But this idea of reincarnation that is a Buddhist idea, it's a Hindu idea, it's not limited to the East. It's even somewhat of a Christian idea when you can be born again. That's an idea that I think as Christianity developed in the East, the Middle East, they were absorbing these concepts from all over their environment, which was mostly the East. The West really wasn't influencing much of that, except for the translation of the Bible through the West, which was mostly in like the European West, Italy, and I got to check my facts on that. But
It's good. Can I interject here?
do it, please. I'm drowning.
No, this is good that you brought Christianity into this, and I have a lot of questions to ask on, when you said karma. So rebirth and reincarnation in Christianity, but I'm not going to go on that at this time. But I'm going to hold back. But Christianity, there is a total punishment, right? You do something bad, you will be going to hell. Is that what I understand?
That is a common way that people look at it, but I think that's a misconception just as much as the West's karmic misunderstanding. If you do something bad will happen to you. Like you just said, in Christianity, there is this idea that if you do something bad or against God's will, you will be punished for it. And I think that idea is very shallow. It's not really what God is trying to cultivate. I think that's been a misunderstanding that's just been perpetuated over time.
Oh.
But it's very much like karma, isn't it? Don't you see those two things as being similar?
Yeah. I don't know much, but about Christianity, and it seems like in Buddhism, when we say karma, and there is a chance that you will come out of it, But the other one sounds like a capital punishment. You just go boom down. That's my understanding. But that's why I'm doing this podcast with you to learn from you. So that's even more. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that the free will thing. That what I'm trying to say is that, do I have any chance to come out of this? Right, this karma. Okay. I'll go with you, Phuntsok. I'm gonna agree with you at this time, but let's say, okay, what are the chances? What options? What choices? What can I do to come out of it? So it's not a capital punishment like boom, you're gonna go to hell and that's it, right? You're done, right? It's not that. I'm not saying Christianity is, but I'm trying to understand. So, do you want to still continue with that topic, or you wanted to come back different time, or whatever you want to say? But I have, as you said, have a lot of questions burning.
I know, this is tough.
But it
listener, we're trying to decide what direction to go. Dear listener.
So reincarnation is nothing different than the karmic memory that I talked about.
So here's my very basic question about how reincarnation and karma are connected, okay?
Wow.
You're Phuntsok, you're sitting there.
Right.
You're experiencing some negative life events that might have been affected by your past actions, let's say, your karma. But when you died 200 years ago and were reborn as another person or being or object, is that the same thread of deeds that follow you into your current body? Your karma, does that stay intact no matter how you're reincarnated?
In Buddhism, I that was
You know what I mean?
That's a good question.
And maybe that's not how the lines go. I don't know how the parallel
Yeah.
works.
So it's like we wanted to get a MA degree in a master's in mathematics, but I never touched. We never studied trigonometry.
Trigonometry.
Whatever.
I never even touched
or
it.
algebra or
No.
calculus,
No.
but we touched on some other thing. But we to understand all of that, we have to understand what is emptiness and all such, which we touched a little bit. So the continuity part is confusing. There's mind-only science. There's a different school of thoughts in Buddhism. They will argue, they will have debate, but they will all come to the same thing. So mind-only science will argue certain way, and some other school, which I don't want to confuse you. So
I'm easily confused. You've confused me already.
if we say we understood the emptiness, okay, I got it. That means you have not understood. So just saying that there is nothing inherently existed out there, that's it, right? That's another extreme. So it's there's this fluidity, this
Fluidity.
thing.
That's great.
So continuity of consciousness. What is consciousness, right? That's a hard question, first of all. What is that continuing? Who's we right? So what is that? I had a debate on that with Buddhist scholars. Actually, shout out to one of the great scholars, Geshe-la Lhundrup from Wisconsin Medicine. He's at Deer Park. He's my go-to person. I'll give a Western. I'll be Mark for him.
Yeah.
And he's Phuntsok over there.
Yeah.
It's just using an analogy. So
Cool. Shout out, buddy.
and this continuity is interesting. If I have to go in deep into that, you got to have a basic understanding of Buddhism, and then I can establish a next foundation to understand, and then a next foundation to understand what is that. Otherwise, when we're talking here through this speech, and then we're seeing each other here, it's in consciousness here. It's experienced in consciousness, and it's a beautiful question you ask. Consciousness is through which we know the things, through which we conceive the things, we conceptualize. Consciousness is where we could imagine. But it's the ground of that, where we do this. You see what I'm saying? Without which you cannot know. So now consciousness is trying to know the consciousness, right? Kind of thing.
Very meta.
So we are jumping on different dimensions here, but this limited mind that we talked about, mind, what is thought, this to comprehend that thing, which is beyond time and space, which is non-local, and trying hard to explain it. The person who is explaining sounds stupid, and the person who's listening and trying to understand through intellectually, it's a waste of time. It finds way, unless Buddha comes here live and explain to Mark, or to me. So,
Are you saying that we can't answer my question?
oh, okay, there you go. So if we come back to this one, there's this thing we call it. It's like subtle energy riding on that kind of a wind, not the wind kind of thing, and then it seems like now it's dependent, right? A theory of interdependent and dependent, that shouldn't be dependent on that one technically, but that subtle energy, or I don't want to say energy because I'm just borrowing Western word to explain to Mark here.
Okay.
So,
oh, thanks a lot. Did you catch that, listener?
it's like even not a light, but I have to use a light.
Yeah.
We'll say kind of light. So the light can I use the word wave now? The wave particle? And then
Yeah, like a wave, like a wavelength.
Yeah.
Sound waves.
Yeah.
That's how you opened today. With the sound
This
waves.
is localized now, and it's going. It's moving to going from one life to another existence because it's confused. It's identified as localized one with the ego and all of that. It's continuing. Once this light, which is riding on that wind or that subtle energy, even the wind is confusing, but the continuity is there, some force there, right? Mm-hmm. That continuity of that one carries all the memory, carries all the karma. And
is it tied to a person? Is it tied to Phuntsok?
Mine is a unique brand and yours is a unique brand. We both have unique karma. Mm-hmm. And that number shaper will carry all that imprint that you have. Mm-hmm. And it is there, but it's not actualized yet. Mm-hmm. It is in a dormant state. When the conditions prevail, boom, it's going to come. So the person who is doing good in this life, he will come across some misfortune in this life. But that could be some bad karma he did in the past that now the situation, the circumstances, the conditions are right, and it's ripe now. Now he's paying for it. Mm-hmm. And then that's why I'm saying is that you only can come out of this trap, this loop. Nobody can come out because you have to do meditation and you have to see how the mind is working and then fine tune to the level where you will see a thought is actually, there's no thought, it's just I don't want to say a wave. Thought could be an image, information. Thought could be, even if I say a thought is an information, it is. I give you an encyclopedia of there. There's so much there. It sounds simple, right? A thought could be image, but there's so much potential in one thought that could connect to another thought, whatever the other one that is in your library, in your memory. Mm-hmm. So this is all related to karma. And it's not going to connect to some other library, but it will connect back to my library to interpret, to give meanings to, and to give me that experience. So if I'm connecting to good thoughts, I will have good experience, whatever, irrespective of external circumstances is. Mark is looking at as if like I lost you there. That is the symbol of taking a break. Pause a little bit, Phuntsok. Slow down. Good. But I think
let's do this. Let's come back to the connection between reincarnation and karma, because I think it warrants a real proper dive into reincarnation. And I'm getting some of that. I'll be honest with you, I'm not getting all of it. I think my mind is wired very differently.
That's your past karma.
Then you're.
I got it.
It kind of sounds like the cheesy Western idea of karma. There is some truth into that, though. It feels like what you're saying is not terribly different from if you do something bad, something bad will happen to you. If you do something good, something good will happen to you. I feel like that's kind of, am I completely misunderstanding what you're saying? But I feel like that is kind of, there is some truth in that. The free will piece is really interesting to me because that is also a core concept in Christianity. And even further back before Christianity, there was Judaism, where God handed down his commandments and his roadmap for what he wanted to do on the earth to the Jewish people. And from that came Christianity. But there's this idea of free will of, hey, here's what we should do here on earth. Here's what you should do, but you've got the choice. Okay? In the Old Testament, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible, and then the whole entirety of the Old Testament before Jesus was born, all the early scriptures are full of stories of what happens when you don't do the right thing. And in that way, it lines into kind of the karmic idea of cause and effect. The New Testament was different. It introduced a different idea. Jesus forward, and we can get into this more properly at some point with a different episode, but the free will is still there. You can still choose what you want to do with what you know is right. If you want to go against that, that's fine, but there are consequences, both now and then in the future for your... In fact, the Bible even says that the sins of the father visit the child. And if that doesn't sound like karma, I don't know what does. So I'm probably pissing off a whole lot of Christians out there, saying that karma is the same as a lot of what we were taught, but I think it's words for the same thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's very well said.
But there's this idea of grace, and that is a new idea too. That's the new thing that Christianity brought to the table, was the way out of it, the way out of our trap of what we've done in the past is grace. And there's nothing we can do to influence that. The only thing we can do to accept that gift of grace is accept Jesus as the way out, what he taught people to do, how he taught people to care for the poor, to look after your neighbor before you look after yourself. Well, not quite in that order, but to love your neighbor. That's the trap. That's the way out of the trap. And that's the grace that we're allowed. It's not, you can't earn it. You can't think your way out of it.
Yeah.
You can't meditate your way out of it. Although I think prayer is a form of meditation, and that's another podcast too. But
let me interject here,
Yeah.
because we shouldn't be stuck with the words and interpretations as well. The word karma sounds very exotic, but what Jesus is saying and in asking and preaching, is that do good things, and those good things will leave a good imprint, and conditions will be created so that whatever the seed you have sown in the past, he didn't say that seed, but those will have a favorable conditions, and you will have chances of, connecting to the better situations in life and have better experience, and you will be a better person, and you will free yourself eventually. Whatever he's preaching, whatever he said about do good to others, and then good things happen to you, be good to neighbors and all of that. Those are key things in Buddhism. Those are really good, because you got to create conditions for the karma to ripe. For a mango tree to grow, you have to have a favorable weather, sunlight, all of that, for the karma to go. So what you're doing is you are setting up a stage for karma to ripe. So you're doing all of these, set the stage so that the karma will ripe. Karma will come into fruition. So, in other words, the connection, the thoughts connecting the memory things in the thoughts in the memory, or whatever you have in memory, will connect in such a way. You're doing positive things. So of course, you're thinking, right? Thinking thoughts, right? And then this will leave another imprint, positive imprint. So it'll create a web of vibration or energy or imprints or karma that will create a good condition for you. And that's in that way, you will be in a state where you will be calm, relaxed, and you will be more calm, relaxed in the sense you will be in a state of equanimity.
Equanimity?
Yeah, tranquil, very peaceful state, and that's when you realize, and then you will see that you have a free will, and free will not just come like, oh, I'm not going to go to the Walmart, I'm going to go to Target. It's not a free will, right? That's a different explanation. Did I connect to you? I felt that I didn't explain about reincarnation and karma in the previous one because I went very broad.
Yeah, it's a bigger question I have, and I don't. I think it.
You gave up on me?
No, I just think we should spend a bigger chunk of time on it.
Yeah.
But if do we need to understand that to progress, in the discussion?
It is
Or is it a
related.
side?
It is related because without the karma, there is no reincarnation, and reincarnation will not happen if there is no karma. You see what I'm saying? So it's the software, and the output you get is the product you see is the human being, right? So, or we say that human being, this human form, amongst all other animal forms, is the only or the best opportunity for you to free yourself, because dogs or goat or all these animals don't have the cognition, that they don't have the rigpa, they don't have the like they say, human beings are the only species who can tell stories, right? Mark can tell stories about you. So why? Because you have that gift. You can articulate, you can talk, you can tell stories. See, the speech, it leaves a better karma. So you're already in other advanced 0.20 version of the software compared to other animals, because see the karma. So you're like that in action wise, or in terms of intention. You can think. This morning I was praying, and I was doing meditation, and that chanting that I was doing took me always. Whenever I chant that, I get emotional because I'm calling my gurus, my lamas, my Buddhas, not my Buddhas, but from a calling, and to say, here, look at me, I'm stuck here in my karma, help me out. Here I'm, because of my karma, I'm here, and I'm the. So what I'm trying to say is that intention, the prayer, the whatever are you with me so far? It is through the intent I'm leaving an imprint there, so that karmically I'm sowing a seed there, so that one day that intention, the pure intention, will help me get to the next dimension or liberate me from this karmic bond, if you know what I'm trying to say. So prayer is a whole different one, but what I'm trying to get to is that through the intention you leave an imprint. Through the speech, I was chanting that mantra, chanting that prayer, and then emotion that I'm getting out of that chanting that thing, tears comes and rolls down my cheek, but it's not the emotion, that the gross emotion, that my emotion. I want to be. The emotion is like, I'm so sad that I'm stuck here. I have this human life form here, and this is the ticket to liberation, but I'm still in deep sleep. I'm still, in deep sleep out of ignorance.
Are you blowing it?
Blowing it, meaning?
Yeah. Are you blowing it? Like, are you throwing your chance away somehow?
Yeah. So
away?
because of my past, the karmic is so strong that I couldn't. I'm trying. Every day I'm trying. So that's the thing, that we're wasting this precious opportunity, not using it for trying to really learn what is this life about. The human life is the only opportunity amongst all, the best opportunity, best stage, best gift, but we are not using it. We were using it to gain more money or power or all of this, stuck in some other materialistic thing. You see what I'm saying? But actually, we're misusing that potential that we have. So go ahead, you hold.
No, this is good. Karma, listener, karma is a lot more complicated than I was ready to admit.
Tibetans have named karma. A lot of Tibetans have named karma.
The name, like their name is karma.
Their names is karma.
Yeah.
And when their name is karma, doesn't mean they're really awakened or knows about.
Oh, are
karma.
you saying you know some real doozies who are named karma?
Yeah, I met I met Westerner. He said he was very proud. I met him at the airport. He said, "Hey, are you Tibetan?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "My name is Karma." I said, "Oh, that's a Tibetan name." He says, "Yeah." And I said, "Do you know what that means?" He's like, he gave me that generic explanation. But
He
that's fine.
was a Westerner?
Yeah, American.
Okay.
I met him at the airport. So he must be one of those hippies.
Posers. We call them posers.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, my name's Mark. I don't have a cool name like Karma. I went to college with a guy named Curry, like the food, and I had never had curry at that point. I was 19, and believe it or not, I had never eaten curry before. I knew about it.
Is he spicy?
He was a radio DJ.
Oh.
At the college radio station. His name was Curry Sedgwick.
Wow.
So Curry Sedgwick, shout out, bro. If you're out there, hello, calling back 30 years. He was a little spicy. To work at a small independent radio station, you have to be spicy.
Yeah.
You have to know what you want. You're
No,
not.
I'm just using the curry
That's
analogy there.
spice.
Good.
I love curry. I love curry. In fact, I'm hoping that maybe we can make dinner sometime together, and you can teach me a couple of tricks how to make a good curry. I've tried to make it from scratch. My daughter, Louisa, shout out Lulu, has made a very good curry before. I don't quite know the recipe she used, but it was up there. You know, it was up there at the restaurant we had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I have to give shout out to my niece, Dicky Pamo. She's a great cook. She's good at making food. I mean curry and all kinds of food. So shout out to Dicky Palmo because I whenever I go to Toronto, Canada, she cooks for
That's
me.
great.
And
That's great.
This is, I think it's some people have this gift. That whatever they make is
Yeah.
so delicious.
My sister Amy, this is just the episode of just butt kissing. This is the shout out episode because I got a shout out to my sister Amy up in Two Harbors. She is the same way. She makes a dish and I can have the recipe and I can make the exact same dish and it's just not that good. Her stuff is just infused and imbued with so much love and like all of the history she's had, the positive, the negative, the spicy, the bland, the fruit, the vegetable, the meat, the vegetarian, all of her history is wrapped into almost everything she makes. And it's just so fucking good.
Oh, dude.
It is.
You moved from donuts to curry and all this different.
I know, but it is. And actually...
Do you live to eat or eat to live? Caught you off guard. Let me hit this. It's okay. See, it's a human life that will live here.
Yeah.
We need, we eat.
We have to feed it.
We eat.
I've gotten less hungry as I've gotten older.
Sleep, reproduce, eat, sleep, reproduce. What they call it, sex or whatever. So people get stuck in all that. I mean, not people, but I sound like I'm outside of it.
Is this a different podcast now?
No, what I'm trying to say, you talk about
buddy?
food, is that conditioned, karmically so conditioned to, that addicted to food. It's also karma that you're reading some...
This is a note from my sister Amy. She wrote me a postcard.
Oh.
Actually, to us.
Oh.
This
really?
is the shout out that I just gave.
Oh.
Amy, can I read this?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
It says, greetings, long-time listeners, first-time caller. She's a first-time caller. It's addressed to Tibet, USA, by the way,
Oh.
care of Mark Schermacher. So it came to my house,
of
but it's
course.
to Tibet,
Absolutely.
USA.
Yeah.
She says, love to hear your thoughts on Frost's Fire and Ice. She's talking about the American poet Robert Frost.
Yeah.
She says, love to hear your thoughts on Frost's Fire and Ice. Some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I've tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. And she says, always been perplexing to me and would love to listen to your conversation about it. Thanks for your talks. Well, Amy, thank you for your postcard to Tibet, USA.
Thank you.
And there's a line in there that makes me think of our reincarnation. The line is, but if I had to perish twice, which means you would have to be alive twice to perish twice. Are you familiar with this poem, Phuntsok?
I like Robert Frost, but this kind of, I don't remember, but is she saying how the universe is going to end?
She's saying if you could choose a way to die, would you choose to die by fire or die by ice? To be burned or to be frozen? That's what Robert Frost is saying. And his mini response inside his poem is, but if I had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also good and would suffice.
Look, there's a deep meaning behind what that poem, what he wrote it there.
Yeah, I think you could go around and around. I get it to mean
It's
that
implied something else.
I think
than
what he's implying,
literally what he was writing here.
yes, as the job of poetry is to say something other than what you're saying.
Yeah, so I don't want to.
I think he's saying, hey, fire will consume us, and fire is one way of dying. But ice I think, is a harder way to go. When you're cold to one another, when we treat each other coldly, when we are indifferent and even icy or cold to our environment, those people around us, that's a much slower, much more painful death than fire. And it's a comment on hate. But maybe there's more to it than that. To be consumed by fire, consumed by desire. He almost parallels on opposite sides desire and hate. Desire being death by fire, hate being death by the cold shoulder of being icy. Anyway, I think Robert Frost liked to play with words.
So, Amy, I thank you for sending the postcard and a beautiful poem, Robert Frost. My it's cold Minnesota. My tongues are frozen. So, do you want to continue with this thing? Because what she's saying is. What Robert Frost's poem is saying is something more than on the surface here. So it's gonna go take us to different spin here. I've already ruined your day.
No,
I already was my memory and thoughts spinning all in different directions to get to that one. But who am I to comment on Robert Frost's poem when his message is different? You know, his message is. Everybody will read it and understand differently based on of their karma.
Which is okay. Yeah. Which is the beauty of poetry, and that's the beauty of art, is it is not empirical. It is not, there's one way to look at it, and that's it, and every way else is wrong. It is not that way.
What he meant,
which I love,
is maybe different. Or maybe it doesn't matter what he meant, but we all understand it differently.
Yes. Yeah, so Phuntsok, let's just take a quick little 2-minute bird walk here.
Okay.
And tell me what, in your view, what did you get from that poem?
The whole point?
Yeah. With your karma as your lens, as it is our lens, whether we want it to be or not, right?
Let me go back now to the mode of what I was thinking when you read it. He was playing with the words here, but he was giving a subtle message on human emotions and human bonding here. So, whatever made him write that poem, he wrote that poem. So, using these elements like fire, or using elements like cold, ice, and then with the desire and hate, cold shoulder. His play of words is his way of writing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever message he gave in that poem, whatever he wants to relay through that poem, is to wake us up to understand what it feels like, what is life about, the hate thing. So, and then the cold shoulder, you said, desire. All these, none of this seems to be better. It's like choosing which one you want to select for your president, kind of thing. So it's either the cold and the fire. None of them, the two of them are not the best option. But he was using the desire and that one. So it's a powerful message. How much emotion, how much, like when you suffer and you go through what you go through, now you know what you go through. So knowing that experience, one has to wake up and act on it and say, hey, I know what that feels like. Cold shoulder, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And the attachment, the desire, the greed. I know what it is. So don't do that to others, like cold shoulder or, all of that. And then be greedy and then the desire realms that you can go into, you can get all of that. So in the message is just to wake up from your deep sleep, and he wants to do it beautifully through the poem. And here I'm struggling with Mark he just caught me off guard with this Robert Frost
I sure
poem,
did. I threw it right out there.
But I'm trying to get to the core of what he's trying to say, and it's my subjective experience. But some who are poet will think, what?
I think it's kind of a lighthearted poem. He thinks deeply about a lot of things, but I don't think every poem or every Robert Frost poem has to be a big deep thing. I think it's kind of just a playful idea, almost saying which way would you, if you had a choice, how would you prefer to die or to suffer? And that idea of suffering, which is another really central idea in my knowledge or what I've heard about Tibetan Buddhism. My friend Darren, shout out, there's the episode of Shoutouts. Darren introduced me to the idea of suffering when he was studying Tibetan Buddhism in Nepal. How would you rather suffer? Would you rather suffer through the quick, painful, fiery death of being incinerated? Or would you rather suffer through the long, drawn-out, slow shutting down of your senses and your body that happens when you freeze to death? I would take the fire.
You be careful.
I'd take it in a blaze of glory.
Be careful. You say your friend name is
Darren.
Darren. Be
Yeah,
careful
Darren Fisher,
because
buddy.
your intention. You should be careful. Be careful with your intention because
Yeah?
it leaves another karma there. So, but then you say there is a choice, and then choice is between two. It's not really a choice because what if you don't like both of these choices that you give it to?
Well, this is what Robert Frost gave us.
We can move on.
There is no ill will directed at Darren.
No.
Yeah.
No. That I don't want to do. I want to add a humor in there to Darren, that he said he wants to choose that way.
No, I wasn't saying that.
Well,
No. I was saying he introduced the idea to me of
The fire?
No, of suffering. Of what does
Oh.
suffering mean in this world? That's all I was saying.
Oh, okay. So he didn't say that
No.
he didn't jump. Oh, okay.
No. I misspoke, or you got my lines crossed. No, Darren was central to me being aware of Tibetan Buddhism 30 years ago.
Oh.
And that's the first time I knew about it. And he said, well, we had this big discussion about suffering and why do we suffer in this world and what does it mean and what is it for and what do we do with it?
Wow.
And that was,
You said 20 years ago?
yeah, we met about 30 years ago.
30 years ago?
Yeah.
And you're still the same here?
Yeah.
With my podcast?
You got it, buddy.
Man, goodness.
I know.
I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is that Darren is absolutely right that suffering is the starting point to understand Buddhism. Really. The birth is a suffering, they will say. Darren will understand that, I'm sure. He's more learned than me, it seems. So, birth is a suffering because in birth, you go through all of that. But yet, at the same time, you have an opportunity to come out of it. And the best opportunity is in a human life form.
Mm-hmm.
But birth in itself is a confusion. It's an ignorance. It's a suffering. It's nothing nihilistic or pessimistic, or what not pessimistic to say that birth is a suffering. You know, Happy Birthday, we sang song, right? But it starts from there. The goal is to liberate yourself from this karmic entanglement, this loop, and then go out. And then you will be one with, we can go on and on and on, right? And then there you go. That's where. So the opposite of that karma or the memory or the trap is to keep a distance from your thoughts. Don't identify yourself too much with your thoughts and emotions and all of that. Meditatively see it. And then that's where the creativity is. That's where you're thinking outside of the box. That's where, from the panoramic viewpoint, you're not sucked into the emotions and all this.
What does creativity and thinking outside the box have to do with karma?
Very good question. So when we see, I tried that in the previous podcast. So we're thinking, when I say I'm thinking, when you're thinking, we're actually recycling the thoughts we have gathered here. And you think you're I'm thinking this. Whatever karma you have, you're recycling that. You're recycling that. So staying a distance, doing it in meditation, that's where the creativity creeps in. I think the opposite of karmic trap, is the creativity. That's where the liberation comes. You see, the great scientists will say that I had this in my dream, and this is how I discovered this, invented this. They were free from the karmic trap, and they were just for the glimpse of it, just to write that theory, right? They may not be fully enlightened, I don't know. But very good question. The opposite of karma, the karmic memory trap, is the creativity. So creativity will only come when you think outside of the box, when you think outside of the conditioned mind thinking. You see, conditioned mind thinking, conditioning, be it a social conditioning or cultural conditioning, whatever conditioning is. See, what a conditioning is? You're actually trapped there. You're conditioned to think that way. You're conditioned to think through the world view of, I got to have a partner, right? I got to eat this food. I'm addicted to this food. I got to sleep. It's conditioned. Body is conditioned to sleep because sleep is needed, right? I've spent days where I didn't sleep and I'm fully awake in the next morning. I'm more awake than I usually go to sleep. So there's another meditative state we go into. I'm throwing big words here. There is
like
not
sleep.
So creativity is the antidote for conditioning thinking.
It's great. That's a great idea.
Karma is there. That conditioned thinking is karma. That's what I'm trying to say. And opposite of conditioned thinking is the creativity. I couldn't give a good delivery there, but you got it. Creativity and karma are opposite to each other.
So creativity in our thinking and creativity in our actions? Both?
The alignment usually goes together with the body, mind, and speech. And that's where you will catch somebody, oh, she said that, but she didn't mean it because I felt that. You see that? So usually the creativity in the intention, in the mind, goes with creativity in action. So, but if something is off, then the alignment is off. Did I answer your question? Yeah, creativity in action. Of course, you got to do an action, physical action in this world to make things happen. Intention alone is not enough, but intention is important. And sometimes the speech is important. How you say it is more important than what you say it. See that? So the speech also comes into play. I don't know why I said that phrase, but did I answer your question? You touched on a deep question. Now you wanted to step back.
I want a deep answer. No, that's fine.
Okay. How are we good in times?
We've been talking for about an hour.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I wonder if we want to sum up what we're talking about here, try to wrap this up in a bow.
Yeah.
Do you think we need a karma part 3? Or should we let this karma be a thread?
Yeah.
With other things we've talked about.
We cannot leave karma and move on with the episode, future episode, because karma is until we are.
It's in everything.
Yeah, and shout out to a friend of mine who takes the time to make a genuine, sincere comment on our podcast. Chang Yang, he said, "I love your podcast, but." I think that's what he said. But he says, it's too long. It's for my work commute back and forth. I have to play 2 times, 3 times.
Yeah.
Could you make it 30 minutes, 40 minutes? And he said, other than that, he says, I like listening to your podcast, Phuntsok, but it's too long.
Can we do it?
So thank you, Chang, for the feedback. Chang Yang is a great friend of mine, good friend of mine. So
Chang, just listen to half our podcast. How about that?
No, it's not complete.
Yeah.
He was giving a good feedback actually.
No, thank you, Chang, for that. And we actually we do steer our creation of content and what we want to talk about and all of the aspects of our show around what people have told us and what your thoughts are, dear listeners. So please keep informing us as to what has been working for you, what makes sense to you, what you'd like to see, what we could do differently, what we could do better. Phuntsok and I are new at this. I hope to have many years under our belt eventually doing this when we can consider ourselves proficient and good at this thing called podcasting. Right now we are learning. So I accept all
feedbacks,
all critiques, all feedbacks.
Yeah.
And we also we also accept donuts and coffee delivered to the Mounds View Library in Mounds View, Minnesota, on the mornings of our podcasts to help us get all juiced up and ready to go. So
the best coffee to go to is the Himalayan Coffee House in Toronto, Canada.
Another shout out.
Young and Eglinton
Street.
Street.
Shameless.
Well, my goodness, such a good coffee
I
and a
have
good
had
dumpling.
that coffee. I've had that coffee. You've supplied me with a bag of beans, a couple bags of beans.
Was it good?
It was delicious.
So shout out to Himalayan Coffee House.
Shout out.
We talked about mind, huh? We talked about consciousness. And it's good.
I've got many questions. I've gotten a few answers, although I feel like what we're doing isn't as much about answers to my questions as it is reframing my questions, and it's almost like my questions are one piece of the puzzle, and we're trying to fit that piece of the puzzle into a finished puzzle, but the finished puzzle isn't quite fully finished yet. Because your experiences are your experiences, and your view of this puzzle is one view of the puzzle. And I know your puzzle is more complete than my puzzle when we're talking about these ideas, because I did not grow up with them. But I feel like the more we talk, the more we find other ways of connecting all these ideas, the Western and the Eastern ideas, and even the debates within the Buddhist community about what some of these ideas mean. Karma, reincarnation.
Consciousness.
The mind. And your experience with Western psychology. I know you're a big Jung reader or studied him a lot, and he really informed your ideas on dreaming, along with your Tibetan Book of Dreams. Is that what it's called?
Tibetan Book of the Living and Dying.
Okay.
Dead, yeah. C.V. Jung actually he studied Tibetan Book of the Dead. No, C.V. Called Gustav Jung.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you continue with what you're saying.
So our puzzle, or the piece I'm trying to fit into your puzzle is, I realize is maybe changing. Like the shape on this puzzle, or this piece is maybe changing as we're talking. And I realized my question as a puzzle piece had pieces missing on the shape of the puzzle piece. Or maybe it was too broad, and
I like that.
I don't know.
I like that. It's English is not my first language, so it's my fourth language here.
Which is incredible to me.
And then I'm trying to articulate these deep experiences that I've gone through, and sometimes I fall short. I see it, so for that I apologize. But should I apologize or not? So
let's make this the shout out episode and the apology episode.
But the intention is pure, and whatever I'm saying, it may not. The intention is to really help broaden the horizon of your listeners' experience by sharing my experience, and that's another karma. There, I'm imprinting another karma, good intention here. And making a lot of sounds here, speech, English, boom, 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 boom. So we want to leave a good vibration here when we leave from here. Talking about the sound, singing bowl and such, I've read and I've understood that there's the cosmic, the universal, the sound of the universe is Om. That's what science said they found out recently. I don't know. Don't quote me. But I've been chanting Om sound for the longest time, just to set my vibration, chakras, energy straight. So I do that. In fact, this morning I did it. So do you know?
Let's Om. Let's Om out here.
Yeah.